Right.
So you don't need to react fast to catch the engine or not make it over rev or whatever it does. So you need fast control when you have fast reaction.
Elon Musk completely lost it after the CEO of Koenigsegg just exposed a humiliating truth about his electric vehicle. This shocking revelation has everyone talking, and Musk's reaction says it all. You won't believe what Christian von Koenigsegg revealed on live TV. What happened between Elon Musk and Christian von Koenigsegg wasn't just another publicity stunt or fight on social media. It was more than that. It was two minds that had changed their own parts of the car world in ways that slowly came to reflect completely different ideas. One was a Swedish engineer who was crazy about how the road felt and how pure the mechanics were. The other is an entrepreneur from South Africa who is making the whole car business digital, data-driven, and electric. You have to go back in time to see how this fight, if you can even call it that, began. Not to a certain event or interview, but to the start of each man's trip. Because of the situation. It is clear from what they built, how they built it, and why they did it that they would finally clash. Christian von Koenigsegg didn't grow up working in cars. To be honest, he wasn't born rich or famous at all. He loved cars from a young age. Koenigsegg says he knew he wanted to build cars when he was 5 or 6 years old. But it wasn't enough to just want fast cars. They also wanted to learn more about them, make them better, and go faster than anyone else. Christian had his first business, a trading company, up and running by the time he was 19. That business gave him the money and mental drive to do something that many people around him thought was impossible: start his own car company. He chose to go all in when he was 22 years old. Not join a company that already exists. Do not try to sell an idea to buyers. He planned to start a hypercar company from scratch, one that would focus not on luxury but on extreme speed and cutting-edge technology. This wasn't in Germany, Italy, or the US where big car companies run the business. A small town in southern Sweden in an empty airport in Ängelholm was the scene. No famous people investing. There will be no spread marketing. There was only one engineer, a garage full of carbon fiber and motor parts, and a dream. In a different part of the world, Elon Musk was already known by this name. He became a symbol of Silicon Valley drive because of his work with PayPal, then SpaceX, and then Tesla. He didn't start Tesla, but he quickly became its public face and strategic boss after moving in early and putting his own money into the business. Musk was in front of the cameras selling a cleaner electric future for all cars, not just the elite few, while Koenigsegg worked in relative silence. By the middle of the 2000s, Koenigsegg had released his first production car, the CC8S. Later models like the CCR and Agera RS started getting attention for more than just how they looked or how much they cost. People were interested in what they could do. With an average speed of 277.9 miles per hour, the Agera RS set a new world record as the fastest production car in 2017. This wasn't a one-time thing. Any small Swedish company could out-engineer the big names in the business, like Ferrari, Bugatti, and Lamborghini. Tesla was also growing at the same time. The Roadster showed that electric cars don't have to be slow or dull. The Model S, on the other hand, really changed the game. It had a sleek look, a long range, and great speed, and it didn't use any gas. Everyone noticed. All of a sudden, the subject of cars changed. Tech reporters wrote about Tesla as if it were the next big thing in transportation. Several governments started to offer benefits for people to buy electric cars, and other car companies rushed to catch up. At first, it looked like Koenigsegg and Musk were going in different directions. Both caused trouble. They were both taking huge chances, and both had clear goals based on engineering. Musk was even hailed by Koenigsegg in interviews, who called Musk a pioneer and said he had invested in Tesla shares early on and made a good return. Both of them respected each other, or at least looked up to each other professionally. They were both thinkers, but they did things very differently when they came up with new ideas. Musk wanted to go big and connect electric cars to millions of people around the world. He also wanted to use software and automation to make driving almost easy. That wasn't something Christian von Koenigsegg was interested in. He was more focused on making tools that go beyond the limits of physics and cars that make people feel something. There was a reason for every gram of weight, hole in the wall, and piece of special hardware. That reason was efficiency, not ease of use or popularity with a lot of people. Each man worked for a different car company and had a different idea of what a car should be. Musk sees his car as a tool. This machine is smart, works well, and is quiet. It gets you where you need to go with as little noise as possible. For Koenigsegg, a car is always something new, a piece of engineering that was made by hand and is meant to thrill, challenge, and engage. When Koenigsegg talks about engineering, they're not just talking about business. The business has created new technologies that no other automaker has even tried to copy. One example is their direct drive system, which doesn't have any gears at all and is used in the Regera. Another is free valve technology, which is a type of engine design that uses electronic actuators instead of camshafts to give much more accurate control. These aren't just small changes or tricks. These are examples of mechanical systems that engineers normally wouldn't touch because they are dangerous. Tesla did things in a very different way. Instead of coming up with new ideas for the combustion engine, they wanted to get rid of it completely. They didn't improve gears. Instead, they used transmissions with only one speed. Their cars didn't speed up. They spoke quietly. That was the point. It made sense to people who are excited about a green future. For Koenigsegg, it made them think. This is where the story changes. Not in a big way yet, but in a subtle way. Christian became more careful about what he said in public about electric cars. He still agreed that they were useful, especially for daily driving in cities. But he started to talk more about the downsides, especially the weight. Batteries are heavy just by being batteries, and you need a lot of them to get the range that people want. That extra weight changes how a car drives, how it turns, and how it feels on the road. Every gram counts in hypercars. That is not an opinion. It is physics. For Christian von Koenigsegg, making cars was never about following trends or being the most famous. He wasn't trying to win over a lot of people. Instead, he worked on making racing cars even better than they were before. Each car that left his factory in Engelholm was made to give the driver a certain experience, one that was raw, mechanical, and deeply linked to the car. That was what made Koenigsegg stand out. It also made him wary of the rising interest in electric cars, especially the way that performance was being changed. Electric vehicles seemed like they would change the game on paper. People saw their quick torque, quiet operation, and fast acceleration times as signs of progress. In their headlines, news sources often praised Tesla for destroying other supercars in drag races or bragged about how fast their cars could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour. But Christian had some doubts. He didn't say that electric motors weren't useful, but he started to talk more and more about one problem: weight. A lot of drivers might not understand this, but weight is very important in high-performance tech. There is a lot of difference between how heavy a car is and how it is spread. This includes how it turns, speeds up, and reacts to small changes. Putting hundreds of kilograms of batteries in a car might make it go faster in a straight line, but it changes how it moves. This wasn't just a technical decision for Koenigsegg, it was a big deal. He started to talk about the downsides of depending too much on battery technology in interviews. Yes, batteries made it possible for cars to go farther and speed up more quickly. But they also made cars heavier, which often hurt their speed and how they felt to drive. This wasn't just a complaint about Tesla. It was a comment on the direction the industry seemed to be going. It wasn't that Koenigsegg thought EVs were bad. He just thought it was wrong to focus on speed numbers without thinking about how they work physically. He wasn't the only one who thought that way. A lot of purists and professionals in the performance industry have had the same worries over the years. Koenigsegg, on the other hand, wasn't just saying these things. He was doing something about them. His company didn't completely reject electric technology. Instead, they started making hybrid devices that tried to find a middle ground. Along with high-revving combustion engines, they used small, light electric motors and battery packs to keep the cars quick and responsive, while also adding instant torque and electric economy. The Regera, a hybrid hypercar that didn't have a standard gearbox but instead had a twin-turbo V8 engine and 3 electric motors, made this point very clear. Even though it wasn't the first hybrid supercar, it was one of the most creative. The car had more than 1,500 horsepower, but what was more important was that it didn't feel like it was carrying extra weight. It was made with balance and response in mind for every part. Koenigsegg had already made it clear that he didn't want to copy what other people were doing before the Jesko showed up. He wasn't making an electric car to compete with Tesla or to follow the rules. He was still only thinking about one thing: making cars that made people happy, not just got them from A to B. As Tesla's power grew, though, it began to change everything about cars. Governments all over the world started giving dates for when internal combustion engines would no longer be used. The R&D funds of major manufacturers were redirected to electric platforms. The age of the gasoline engine was over, according to the news. And all of a sudden, Koenigsegg, who had spent decades improving performance through combustion, saw the world go in a very different way. He wasn't happy about that move. As he went on, he pointed out that the focus on EV performance numbers like range and speed was taking away from the things that made driving fun. He said that success couldn't be summed up in a list of specs. Things like steering input, weight distribution, and throttle response aren't important in a drag race, but they make a car what it is. There was also the matter of driving itself. Tesla was a leader in the field of self-driving cars. Features like autopilot and full self-driving were getting a lot of attention from tech fans and lawmakers alike. Elon Musk talked about a time when cars would be self-driving and public transportation would be safe, quick, and easy. That didn't make Christian von Koenigsegg happy. Driving wasn't a problem for him. It was a joy that should be kept alive. His cars were made for people who wanted to feel everything, not for people who wanted a computer to take over. He talked about this change in interviews in a way that was both subtle and clear. He wondered if the world was moving toward a time when people wouldn't feel linked to the technology they used. Even though he never said anything bad about Tesla or Elon Musk by name, it was clear he didn't like the way they were going. With each year that went by, the difference between the two became clearer. Musk was focused on making a lot of cars, updating them over the air, and getting them to millions of people. Koenigsegg was only making a few dozen cars a year, and each one was completely unique and well-engineered. People liked how simple Musk's cars were. They had smooth lines, few buttons, and clean digital dashboards. Even though the inside of a Koenigsegg is futuristic, it was created with the driver in mind. There are buttons, tactile feedback, and precise instruments that were put there to improve the connection, not break it. Koenigsegg showed off something in 2020 that surprised everyone in the business. It wasn't just another hypercar made to break records or do fast laps. It was something much stranger, a giant GT with 4 seats. The Gemera was the name of this car, which was a first for both Koenigsegg and the world of high-performance racing. It was a family car with over 1,700 horsepower, which is more than most race cars. However, it didn't have an oversized V12 engine or a huge battery pack. Instead, it had a small engine with 3 cylinders and 3 electric motors working together. In terms of volume or price, the Gemera wasn't made to directly compete with Tesla, but it made one thing very clear. Koenigsegg was interested in the future of electric cars, but only in his own way. This wasn't a deal or a copy. It showed that performance and electric power could live together without taking away from the fun of driving. The Gemera's hybrid system stood out not for how much power it made, but for how it sent that power to the rest of the car. Using a small internal combustion engine along with electric power made people question the idea that bigger batteries were always better. But it also went against the trend of just adding more weight to get faster. The car was built around 3 values: efficiency, control, and feel. Koenigsegg had never veered from these, even as the rest of the industry changed to follow the electric wave. Christian called the Gemera a Mega GT, which is a brand new type of car. That car wasn't a typical Grand Tourer, and it wasn't a stripped-down track car either. It was in the middle, giving you comfort and usefulness while still performing at a level that most supercars couldn't match. It sent a strong but subtle message. New ideas didn't have to go in just one way. There were various ways to consider the future of achievement. The Gemera wasn't the only surprise, though. Koenigsegg made another statement a year after the hybrid model first came out. They were working on making the Gemera run on electricity only. No engine that burns fuel, no middle ground mix. Pure electric performance, built from the ground up with the Koenigsegg concept in mind. This wasn't going to be about autopilot or digital helpers like other EVs, though. The whole panel would not be replaced by a big touchscreen in the middle. Feel, balance, and control would still be important for the electric Gemera. Koenigsegg was making an electric car that felt like a machine in a market full of sleek, quiet, software-driven cars. People talked about that move. People in the business started to wonder if this was Koenigsegg's direct challenge to Tesla, not in terms of numbers or market share, but in terms of vision. It was hard to avoid the time. Tesla had just announced the next-generation Roadster, a car that was said to have record-breaking speed and a range of more than 600 miles. It was said to be the next generation of performance electric vehicles, EVs, able to change the way speed and economy look in a legal car. However, Koenigsegg didn't seem pleased. He didn't say anything bad about Tesla's Roadster or its performance claims in public, but it was clear from the way he worked that he wasn't interested in making a wheeled gadget. The electric Gemera wouldn't be about how far it could go or how to get information over the air. It wasn't going to try to get rid of the driver. This machine would not use gasoline, noise, or gears. Instead, it would try to keep the link between people and machines. At that point, the difference was more than just a difference in ideas. It began to feel like a quiet protest. Koenigsegg had never gone the same way as everyone else. Most car companies were putting money into digital dashboards, driver assistance systems, and software-based experiences. But he put even more effort into engineering concepts that focused on touch and movement. He paid attention to things like weight distribution, rotational mass, and suspension geometry, which aren't often talked about in news releases but are very important to understanding how a car drives. This way of thinking was now being used for electric cars, not to copy the market winner, but to show that there was still a different way to do things. Koenigsegg fought back as more companies switched to systems with touchscreens and AI. He thought that making cars easier to use didn't always make them better to drive. For him, speed driving wasn't meant to be simple. It was meant to be fun. And the growing success of self-driving features like predictive cruise control and automatic lane changes made me wonder if we were making cars for people who wanted to drive or people who didn't. The stress wasn't just about technology, it was also about culture. It showed that there was a rising gap between two types of car companies. On one side were companies like Tesla that saw the car as a way to build technology, software, and cleaner cars. On the other side were companies like Koenigsegg that saw the car as a way to connect people and make machines look good. Both ways of doing things were good, but they were so very different from each other. At this point, the media started to make the differences between the two names more clear. News stories began to talk about Koenigsegg as the last refuge of driver-focused engineering. A lot of people started to compare the Gemera to Tesla's future Roadster, not just in terms of specs, but also in terms of how they work. The journalist said that while Tesla was trying to make driving easier, Koenigsegg was enjoying how complicated it was. Musk wanted to make things quiet, but Koenigsegg wanted to make things feel good. Elon Musk hadn't said anything about Koenigsegg or the Gemera in public, but people in the business said he was aware of what was going on. Tesla often kept a close eye on its rivals, especially when it came to speed tests. People also paid attention to Christian's subtle comments and talks about battery weight, driver engagement, and how important feel is. Still, it wasn't personal. It was getting there, though. Tesla's way of making cars has always been controversial among people who like fast cars. Many people liked how they used software to improve performance, how simple their interiors were, and how they were working toward full autonomy. But some people thought driving was more than just going somewhere. The way Christian cared about mechanical cleanliness was like a breath of fresh air to them. Christian wasn't afraid to have those talks either. He started being more honest about the risks of turning cars into transport pods that aren't tied to each other. He said that cars could feel cold if they relied too much on digital technology. He was worried that electric cars were being made with ease rather than connection in mind. Even though he didn't directly name Tesla or Musk yet, the message was getting stronger. It was no longer just about tech, it was about who you are. What does it mean to drive? How should a car look? Should the goal be complete effectiveness or strong involvement? Should we work toward a world where cars drive themselves? Or should we keep the parts of driving that make it fun for people? By 2021, Koenigsegg and Tesla were no longer just going their separate ways. It became more and more clear that there were two different ideas, each with its own devoted followers and its own vision for the future. It got harder for smaller automakers to ignore the pressure to react as Tesla continued to make headlines, change laws, and change people's ideas about what a car could be. The reporters began to ask more direct questions. Investors and people in the industry started to wonder if Koenigsegg would still be important in a world that was moving more and more toward fully electric cars, self-driving cars, and software-based driving experiences. Christian did more interviews, and his tone started to change in those conversations. Not only was he not mean, but he also wasn't holding back as much. He talked about the bad things about big power packs. He talked about how dangerous it would be to take away the driver's role in the car completely. Even though he didn't say who it was clear what he meant. While the rest of the car world was excited about software changes and algorithmic driving, Koenigsegg was adamant that cars were meant to be driven, not just ridden in. All of this came to a head at a private event in Europe for the car industry. There was no press meeting. There were not any live streams or posts on social media. There was only a small group of journalists, execs, and engineers in the room for the closed-door Q&A. The event had a laid-back vibe. People were talking shop, exchanging ideas, and thinking about what the future holds for high-performance cars. That's when it was bound to happen. Someone brought up Tesla. According to those who were there, the question was pretty clear. Could companies that make hypercars like Koenigsegg stay in business if Tesla and other electric car companies took over? Christian had already given many answers to that kind of question, usually in a polite way. Most of the time, with calm, polite words. This time, though, his answer was different. Witnesses say he paused, gave a half smile, and leaned back a little in his chair. Then he said, "Tell Elon I said F you." He didn't sound angry, but his tone wasn't filtered either. "We make real cars, not furniture or tools." It was said that the room became silent. Some people thought it was a joke. Some people weren't sure. It didn't matter if the comment was made out of anger, in fun, or just to be honest. It got out of that room within hours. It became its own thing after it went viral on the internet. Car forums got really active. Insiders in the industry made vague comments confirming the story. The quote was quickly picked up by blogs and car news sites. Some people saw it as a strong protest message. Some saw it as a clear attack on Tesla and Elon Musk. In any case, the story had changed. The soft-spoken Swedish engineer Christian von Koenigsegg had finally broken lines and said what he really thought. When the comment got to Elon Musk, he allegedly reacted right away. People who know Musk well say he was very angry. Not only did the words hurt him, but also the person who said them. It wasn't a reviewer from a competing car magazine or a past worker who was upset. An individual had openly backed Tesla in the past, calling Musk a visionary and having even put money into the business. Now he was talking about Tesla cars as if they were lifeless tools and completely disagreeing with Musk's main ideas. Some people who work for Musk say that he vented his anger in private talks, where he called Christian Koenigsegg's cars irrelevant toys and said that he was out of touch with where the industry was going. There were even rumors that some angry tweets were sent out and then quickly deleted, but copies of those messages started going around almost right away. No matter how true it was, everyone thought Musk was upset. This was the first time that the tension between these two automobile pioneers was not hidden. It was now about them. The business world paid attention. People from both sides said what they thought. Koenigsegg's supporters praised him for telling the truth to power, saying that mass-produced, software-driven cars were making driving less fun. The way Koenigsegg does things is said to keep the spirit of driving alive and fight against the tide of automation and digital disconnectivity. Tesla had made cars faster and more fuel-efficient, but fans said that it hadn't always made them more fun. On the other hand, Tesla supporters said that Koenigsegg's views were based on old ideas. They said that electric cars were already here and now, not just something that would happen in the future. That widespread use, new software, and driver assistance systems were making towns cleaner, roads safer, and transportation easier to get to. They thought Koenigsegg's plan was arrogant, a special product for the very wealthy, not a good way for the industry as a whole to go. It wasn't just a matter of technical differences anymore. It had turned into an ideology. A lot of important questions about the future were brought up. In a world that values economy and ease of use, is performance driving still useful? In this age of automation and AI, can handmade cars that make you feel something survive? Is it better to make machines that connect with people or machines that don't need to connect at all? Christian von Koenigsegg didn't take back what he said. He didn't say anything to clarify or try to make things better. And he didn't say sorry either. That silence said a lot. It wasn't about going viral or winning a PR fight. It was about being sure of what he believed. Those cars should make you feel that they should give you trouble, that the goal of engineering shouldn't just be to make things easy, but also to make them better. Without a doubt, his words touched a nerve, whether you agree with him or not. A lot of people have said bad things about Elon Musk over the years. He has had disagreements with the government, reporters, rivals, and even his own shareholders. But this time felt different in some way. This had nothing to do with politics or business. It was about who you are, about what's important, about how two very different men built powers that were completely at odds with each other. The talk didn't end because of Koenigsegg's comment. It started. It made people think about what real progress in the car world looks like. Is it always better to go faster? Is it easy all the time? What do we lose when we take away the things that made driving fun in the first place? Christian von Koenigsegg and Elon Musk may not be fighting over who is right or wrong in the end. It might not even be a normal game. It's about two futures that are looking at each other. Some people believe in machines that can run themselves. Some people believe in tools that, when you drive them, make you feel alive. Now the real question is, what kind of future do we want? Since the lines are now drawn, the ideas are easy to understand. It only took one uncensored statement in a quiet room in Europe to make the whole world pay attention.